Hey everyone, welcome to the first full episode back. Quick note before we get started, you'll probably notice, but my audio is a little rougher than usual in this episode. Rookie mistake on my end with the recording, but the conversation was so good I didn't want to lose it. Marissa sounds fantastic, and I promise the content more than makes up for it. So, okay, let's get to it. This is Wood Fired Herping, and I'm Zeev. Each show, I'm going to be bringing you stories from the field, talking to people who are probably way cooler than me, and having a great time doing it. We'll chat about conservation, herping, places you should visit or avoid, photography, and getting skunked as a lifestyle. There'll be herps, food, gear, and more. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to Wood Fired Herping. This is our first episode with a guest, and it's someone I'm super excited about. Photographer, herper, and all-around awesome person, Marisa. You've probably seen her photos on social media because they're beautiful. They get shared everywhere. And she's the main photography contributor to Emily Taylor's California Field Guides, which two are out already. One's coming out soon I'm really excited about. If you guys haven't got them yet, get them. They're awesome. She's traveled the world photographing all the absolute coolest species and being in all the coolest places. And recently, she got to work with USGS and San Francisco Zoo on photographing and being part of the release of endangered San Francisco Gartersnakes back into the wild. And she's someone I'm proud to call a collaborator and a friend. Marisa, it's so great to have you on the show as my very first guest. I'm so excited about this. Thanks for taking the time
I'm
to
so
be here.
excited too. Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, I'm really excited. As I was saying, you were part of a really exciting project recently with USGS and San Francisco Zoo, releasing San Francisco Gartersnakes after captive propagation, right?
Yeah, so I can't take much credit for creating any sort of the network for it or whatever, but it was a seriously a spontaneous moment and a lot of serendipity that happened to it. But through connections in my work, I work as an environmental consultant in California. Through connections at work, we started head starting some California red-legged frogs with the San Francisco Zoo. So collecting egg masses, raising them up, and then releasing the juveniles back into the wild. It's been
Hmm.
shown that it has a higher rate of success as opposed to just translocating egg masses. So we started doing that, and then we started talking more and more to the zoo and becoming friends with them. And so they have this awesome project that they're starting this year where they gathered 10 gravid female San Francisco garter snakes from the wild,
Hmm.
mostly on like privately owned land on mid-peninsula land and mid-peninsula open space mid-peninsula, yeah, and or mid-pen, and USGS has been doing like I think they have like 7 to 10 years of data on these ponds and these populations. So they grabbed like 10 gravid females, they brought them to the zoo. The females were gave birth in the zoo to like 117 babies. Those are all going to be captive reared for a year and then released back into populations that have depressed genetic fecundity. So that's not the right word, but depressed genetics. And so we're trying to increase genetic diversity in those populations that are more isolated. So we're not really a part of it. I just got invited to go take photographs, and I'm really excited about that because if you Google San Francisco garter snake, the photos that pop up on Google Images are so bad. Or they are not even San Francisco garter snakes.
Right.
So San Francisco garter snakes are Thamnophis sertalis tetratania. And there's another subspecies that's in the Bay Area called the California red-sided garter snake, which
Hmm.
is Thamnophis sertalis infernalis. And you can tell the two apart because the SFGS has a clean red stripe, whereas infernalis has black checks in that red stripe. So when you're looking at a picture of an SFGS that's claiming it's an SFGS, look for those black checks because oftentimes they're not actually SFGS. And there's very few photos of San Francisco garters in their habitat
Yeah.
and looking beautiful. And mainly they're kind of in hand or on paper towels or white background, or they're kind of washed out. So I was
Or
really
those like
excited to get the
far away in
opportunity.
situ ones where they're in the reeds and those are cool photos, but they're
Right.
never like, yeah,
You see like
yeah,
2 inches of the body.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, before this opportunity, that's literally what my photos looked like. It was just like in the reeds,
Yeah.
2 inches of the body. And it's so exciting to have my photos featured in a couple news articles now.
I know, that's
So,
awesome. I was going to say I've seen the photographs of them already being widely used in the publications, and that must be super cool. I mean, I know it's happened to you more than once, but does it ever kind of lose the excitement when that happens?
no, it doesn't. And it's just awesome. I know a lot of photographers and photography in general is a very personal art. And a lot of people demand payment, which I think is totally right. I
Hmm.
have gotten paid for my photos before. In this case, this is my version of science communication. I want to get these photos out. Honestly, shouldn't be saying this on a podcast, but I don't even care if they get stolen at this point, as long as you
Really?
don't pretend that they're yours.
Yeah.
But I want them to be shared widely. I want them to be like used as educational materials. I want them to be on posters. I want them to be on, brochures and everything. Just
Yeah.
use them, because I want those photos to be synonymous with the species because they are true to the species in their habitat and they're beautiful individuals.
Yeah, you see them and it's these gorgeous photographs of such gorgeous snakes. And if you're not familiar with the snakes, it's easy to think that those are super edited or, oversaturated.
Mm-hmm.
Like that one famous photo that isn't even an SFGS.
Nope.
But I mean, these are really how they look. That is, your photos really just capture a moment in the life of an SFGS. It's super
Yeah.
cool.
And I will say, like, if you are thinking like, wow, those colors can't be real, look at the foliage. Look
Yeah,
at the grass behind the snakes.
right.
Because that one photo that we're both alluding to,
Yeah,
that grass looks radioactive. And
yeah.
they're not it's it just doesn't look like that
I'll
in real
try to,
life.
well, I was gonna say I'll put the photo in the show notes, but I think that photo's been seen enough. I don't need
Let's
to show
not.
it. Yeah, I don't need to give it any more screen
It's an
time.
infernalis. It's
Yeah.
not a good photo.
Yeah, I was talking to Ben the other day. He was wanting to come talk about the SSU's program overall and was giving me more insight on it. It's just such a cool program. It's so great the success rate they're having. First of all, the gravid snakes that they're collecting, are they collecting them only when they're gravid? Or are they captive? There's no captive breeding going on.
No captive breeding, and these are definitely questions that you should absolutely ask Ben. And these are Ben questions because again, I'm like very tangentially involved in it. But yeah, they collected gravid females, and then they're doing captive rearing and rearing of them. And Ben is like the one who's feeding all the babies and taking weights and taking data. And yeah, he's very instrumental in all that. So I think he should.
Yeah, I'm going
I'll
to.
pass the torch to him.
We're trying to find time, but hopefully
Yeah,
very soon, because that's such a
good.
fascinating thing to talk about.
Yeah.
But just personally, what did it feel like to not only get to be there as part of that moment and photograph it, but to hold in your hands that giant, big female, and all of them in general, but especially that one, like the things she must have seen in her life as the
Yeah.
very last little bit of what was once probably, I mean, not a huge range, but still a lot more than we have
Yeah.
today. And you're holding them things she must have seen, you know?
Yeah, and it's that population evidently was not doing too well. They've been tracked for like over a decade, and USGS has been taking data on that population, that one pond, for a long time. And due to cattle grazing, their populations were really low, and there were years out there that they only found one or two snakes and like no red-legged frogs, which is their main prey source. And so they worked together with the landowners and put up a cattle fence around it, and the snake populations came back
Hmm.
like crazy to the point where when we went out to release that big female, number 308, um, we saw another huge female lunge after a massive red-legged frog. It
That's
was
so
so
cool.
cool.
That's
Like it
so
was
cool.
so neat. Yeah, it's I honestly like SFGS is a species that my supervisor who was with me, Rob Shell, like we've been trying to go find and go see and go legally get handles of San Francisco gartersnake for years. I mean,
Yeah.
both of us over 20 years. And it's so hard to find opportunities to get those legal handles. And so to be encouraged to handle, to be encouraged to interact with them is incredible. Just
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago, we volunteered with USGS as well, doing trapping of giant garter snake. And
Hmm.
that's another one that's in the running to be California's state snake or state reptile.
Really?
Yeah, it's so giant garter snakes have lost 98% of their range in the Central
Wow.
Valley and
It's
in the state.
insane.
They used to be the Central Valley. I know. And we got to go trap them, and we didn't get giant ones. We got, little babies, but
Hmm.
still like being able to get handles and interact with that species, it's amazing. And it I often think about if I had a time machine, like what I would do. And I would absolutely go back to a California before European colonization to just
Yeah.
see what this place looked like
Yeah.
before we screwed it up, before the levees were built and before the landfills and before the coastlines and the marshes went away. And like, oh my gosh, where there's stories of how flocks of birds blocked out the sun and the indigenous people had no word for hunger because they
Yeah.
didn't know what it was. It was such a rich place. And gosh, would I love to see that. Yeah.
The difference that we've made in California.
Yeah, I
You know,
know. I
I'm
know.
not in California now, of course, but it's still home to me, and it's where I grew up. And to what you were just saying, my spiritual home in California is far out in the eastern Mojave, out in the preserve, and even kind of north of there. And when you're out there,
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of start to get a sense of what is it like to be in California with nobody around? What is just nature, especially if you're off-roading and you get really far out there. And I know there's some places in the Sierras that I felt like that too. But having that tiny little window, it's just a tiny peak, but to think
Mm-hmm.
this was everything. This is what everyone had. This is what we
Mm-hmm.
had is it's really a place that I think you can feel that more than other places. Here in Texas, not at all. I mean, you drive around for hours, for hours, for hours trying to find anything, and there's plenty of beautiful nature, but it's all behind barbed wire. Yeah.
I don't know if you have any international listeners, but I feel that way like when I was in Japan or when I was
Hmm.
in Europe, like anywhere in Spain or England, and it just feels so trodden.
Yeah.
And so everywhere you've gone, someone else has gone. And even in California, when you're just in the mountains or in the desert, you
Yeah.
can really trick yourself into thinking you're the first person who's been there
Yep.
in a damn long time.
Yeah.
And, just trying to get out into nature in Japan felt very manicured. It felt very curated. It was really challenging
Hmm.
to get out there. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that from other people who've traveled to Japan. It's interesting. Growing up in India, that was totally the opposite case. You know, you go.
Mm.
I mean, you've had the chance to herp in India, I think, a couple times, right?
Just once, yeah.
Just once, yeah. And so maybe you experienced it. Maybe I don't know where in India you were, but where I grew up, it was just nature with houses, with towns
Mm.
popping out of it, and in between, it's just there's no such thing as private land. Maybe somebody owns it, maybe somebody doesn't, but who knows? What fences, what signs.
Yeah.
But going back to photography for a second, you were talking about
Yeah.
how we were talking about your SF Gartersnake photos in publications and stuff, and you're, as I mentioned in the intro, the main photography contributor to Emily's books, which is I'm honored to be in them as well. They're amazing books, and seeing all of our photos together in there is such a great window into different the difference in viewpoints that we all have in photography and that we bring into it. Something
Mm-hmm.
I really love about your photography is that so often it's a window into the snake's world as if the photographer wasn't there. You just kind of, there's recently, I think it's an Infernalis photo of it swimming away from the camera, which is like, I was sitting there looking at that and going, as a photographer, what would come to my mind to sit there and think of taking a photo of something and going away from me? Like it goes against everything we're supposed to do, but it puts you right there in that moment. Is that
Yeah.
something that over time you've actively worked at, or has just kind of been part of your process of feeling into it? I guess that was a weird way to
Yeah,
phrase
I mean,
that, but
yeah, as you were too, I'm sure we were both probably very influenced by Lee Grismer, right?
yes,
And
absolutely.
Grismer-esque photos. So for those who don't know, Lee Grismer is an amazing photographer who did a lot of what like herp and habitat photography, and he was kind of the first to really pioneer that herp and habitat work. And so I loved those shots. I love doing wide angles. And you're right. I do try to make it so that it looks like we weren't there. So I will often, like, if I can photograph in situ, I'm always photographing in
Yeah.
situ. And I'm moving slowly and trying to make sure that I can get that in situ shot of what the animal is doing and capturing a behavior in a way the animal is interacting with nature. And obviously, with the SFGS, for example, we were taking them out of bags. There's no way that
Right.
we could have gotten those in situ. That I was trying to find another one to get in situ. But a lot of those like very diurnal, very fast snakes, they just won't sit still and you have to get them in hand.
Right.
What you'll notice with a lot of my photographs is I don't like lump of snake photos. I don't like coiling them.
Yep.
So
That was
oftentimes I have them stretched out. I have them look like they're crawling, which is a massive challenge because if you put a snake on a ground and you pose it like it's crawling, it's going to crawl.
Right.
And so, and it is an exercise in a lot of patience to sit there and like zen out and really get that snake crawling photo when it is still. I mean, there have been
Yeah.
situations like I have a photo of an anaconda in the Amazon, and that thing was bitey as hell, never sat still. And and I was like in the mud and half in the water because it's an aquatic species. I
Right.
wanted to photograph it near the water. So I kept having to put it on the bank and then stop it from biting the crap out of me as it like swam into the water. And I ended up just having to like raise my shutter speed like crazy, raise my ISO, put a bit of a more depth of field on it, and just shoot and pray because you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm still not happy with my photos of it, but it works. And for that reason, like turtles and tortoises are the absolute worst to photograph because
Yeah.
they're either tucked into their shell or they are running.
Right.
And it is, yeah, it's irritating. I hate photographing turtles and
Yeah, I was
tortoises.
trying to photograph desert box turtles just now in the Southwest, and it's the
Mhm.
same thing. I'm trying to get them with their feet on the ground, and I want either their feet on the ground, their heads down, they're taken off,
Uh-huh.
or I got their face out a couple times, but still everything else in they're like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um, Another challenge you said, obviously the challenge is getting them to stay still when you're photographing a snake that's spread out or crawling. But from a photography standpoint, that's super challenging too, just from framing, flat ground,
Mm-hmm.
flat frame, and there's a line here, there's a snake. It's really hard to make that an interesting picture. And I always love seeing the little shifts, the little angles, the little personal touches you give to it to make that an interesting photo. You have one of a Zonata crawling into like a clearing, a little glade over some
Mm-hmm.
moss, and
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at that and thinking how I don't think there could have been any way I could have been there and gotten an interesting photo of that. It would have been a voucher, but without a lot of active thought. Now that I've seen your photo, I can think about it, but it wouldn't have come naturally to me. How do you think about composition and framing and
Hmm.
getting that?
It was actually Sam Murray, who taught me probably 15 years ago that you always need to have a place for the subject to go. So when you have the framing of a snake and you're having it crawl, it needs to have more distance in front of it than it
Right.
has behind it. So that's a really, really important rule. I also obviously want to tell somewhat of a story. So I'm trying to figure out what kind of composition, where is the snake going in its habitat? Where is it? But you also have to work with what you've got. And sometimes you don't have those elements, and sometimes it's just tricky. Um, so honestly, I usually am trying a couple of different spots, but if the snake is just unruly, I let it go and I
Yeah.
see where it goes and I see where it ends up. And when it, and sometimes it ends up somewhere cool. So like the photo you were talking about the Infernalis, like crawling away from you, I had already done all my shots
Hmm.
and I was letting it go. And I basically just took my camera and like leaned down and took some shots and was like, wait, that looks
That's
really
so cool.
cool.
Yeah.
Like this snake doing what it wants to do
Right.
looks really cool. So let me go ahead and do that. And there's another picture of a Tetratania to SFGS that I took on Monday where we had finished photographing it. It wasn't sitting still. It was being a pain in the butt. And so I just let it go and it cruised out into the pond and then came back to the shore and like cruised through the reeds. And I have this super cute photo of it looking up at me through the reeds. And like that was it's not in situ, but it's not posed, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the time I shoot for a while in what I think is going to look good. Sometimes it does, other times it doesn't.
Yeah.
And then I just let it go and see what it wants to tell me to do.
That's a really interesting thing you just said there. That not in situ, but not posed either. Where that's cool. Um, Another thing you just mentioned is the letting it go, right? It's unruly, it doesn't want to pose, and you're letting it go. And that brings me directly to what I wanted to ask you about next, which is how has your philosophy and do you think maybe the community's philosophy for photographing snakes shifted over the years, especially in terms of ethics and avoiding not only and avoiding sensationalism, but mostly just in the ethics of you're delaying an animal, you're stressing an animal. I'm always aware when I'm photographing a snake that I am stressing it. I don't want to, some are like, oh, it doesn't stress it. I'm just taking a few photos. No, it's stressing it, and I have to accept that if I'm going to take photos of it. Do I think that there's a payoff there that I'm on the pro side of? Yes, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it. But there's always that connection. Over the years, for me, it's gotten a lot more conscious. I spend a lot less time with snakes now than I did in the start. And how's that? What are your thoughts on that?
You are absolutely dead on. It's an ethical conundrum, right?
Yeah.
I really want to spend time with these animals. I want to interact with them. Like I mentioned earlier, there are certain species that don't do well when you're in situ.
Right.
They are, they're runners. A croat, right, or a rattlesnake or a viper is more likely to sit still and is more likely to chill, and you can kind of vibe with it, right? But there are a lot of other species that are just diurnal fast hunters that will just pew,
Yeah.
go. So, I, everybody has to grapple with this in their own way. The way that I grapple with it and the way that I justify it to myself, which may or may not resonate with people, is that I use my photographs to educate people about how beautiful snakes are and how they are important as or integral in our ecosystems, right? So what I do with my photos is I use them as educational devices. I go to markets and I go mainly to farmers markets and art markets and anything, and I sell my photography. And
Hmm.
often I do that at the cost of not going out and photographing that weekend. But the fact is, like, I have a photo of an Eastern coach whip that I took 15 years ago in Georgia.
Hmm.
And it is just a head-on photo of a snake. And I had that snake in hand. I was photographing it like in the shade in the side of my car in
Hmm.
Telfair County, Georgia, a million years ago. It's looking straight at you with these big bulbous eyes and its tongue out.
Yeah.
And the number of people who have come up to me and gone, I hate snakes. I love that snake.
That's so cool.
Huge. I mean, it's
Yeah.
such an ambassador to the species, right? Or like, my photo that's on the cover of California Snakes and How to Find Them,
Hmm.
that Infernalis, like people going, "Oh, I'm so scared of snakes." That's a gorgeous snake,
Yeah.
right? And the fact that I can say, I mean, I'm here in Marin County. I can say, you can go find that this afternoon if you wanted to. Like,
Right.
go outside, go find it. So, yes, I am delaying these snakes. Yes, they don't have a say in it. They can't consent. They don't consent. I can say
Yeah.
that from the bites that I get and the
Right.
crap that I get, I get crapped on and everything,
Yeah.
like, and all the, and they want to get away. They don't consent. And, but the amount of great things that I hear from people engaging with the material. And there's a kind of, I wanted to bring this quote up because it's my absolute favorite quote, which is, in the end, we will conserve only what we love. We will love only what we understand, and we will understand only what we're taught. And that's by Baba Diem, who is a Senegalese forestry
I love that.
person. I know. So, like, all right, if we break that down, like, we will understand only what we're taught. Well, society has taught us to be scared of snakes.
Right.
It's taught us from the Bible to Harry Potter to everything has taught us to be scared of snakes. I was scared of snakes when I was a kid. First rattlesnake I ever saw, I ran away screaming. Second, third, I did too. And so I didn't understand them
Yeah.
because I was never taught about them.
Right.
So if you're taught, you were taught to fear them. Here's how you escape a rattlesnake. Not here's why it rattles. Here's how venom works. Here's their behavior. Here's how they're carrying mothers.
Right.
Here's how all these cool things that they do. Um, and once I had the means to be taught about snakes and I understood them a little bit more, I grew to love them and now I want to conserve them.
Yeah.
Right. And so at these markets, I bring people up from no awareness
Yeah.
to having some awareness, some engagement, some like, even if it's subconscious of snake, except for that one, that was really pretty.
Right.
Like that can open a door to people.
Yeah.
So that's why I keep going out there and photographing snakes. But in the end, it's a selfish reason, right? And I am disrupting an animal's natural behavior. And yeah. So
Yeah, I think I don't know if I'd call it selfish, but it's your answer. First of all, it's a great answer. It's similar to what I say when people ask me, because it's something that came up. I'm very vocally against free handling, or at least publicly free handling and posting it and all of that. And so it came up there. They're like, well, you stress snakes too when you photograph them out. I said, yes, it is. I do. And I made
yeah,
me
but
sit and
free
think,
handling is something
right, no,
different.
totally
Free
different. I'm not
handling
saying
is
that's a
modeling.
valid. That wasn't a
Yeah,
valid argument, but
that's
what it did is it made
modeling
me,
bad behavior.
right. And so instinctively I knew that their argument is invalid, but I had made me sit with it and think, why? What's my reason for what you just said? And it's the same thing. It's a cost benefit analysis in a way. It's
Mm-hmm.
I'm costing some stress for the snake, but I'm benefiting by sharing my photos. I don't do education in the same scale that you do, but I share them online a lot and I get them shared to non-snake spaces very often.
Mm-hmm.
And if one person sees that out of the million who are going to see it, if one person sees it and doesn't kill a snake they were going to kill, that stress for
Mm-hmm.
that snake costs less than the life of that snake. And so that kind of a thing is where I sit okay with it. And if it gets to the point where I'm harming a snake more than I'm helping a hypothetical future snake. That's kind of my line with that. So that was interesting to hear. You mentioned the Infernalis on the cover of Emily's book. And as I've said a couple times, you're the main contributor to it. And how did you first get involved with Emily on those? Well, to
Oh
all
my
three of them.
gosh. Um, Emily and I have known each other for a very long time. Um, and we went to Indonesia together this year. It was so much fun. And I don't remember. I mean, she reached out to a bunch of photographers, you included, right?
Hmm.
And me. And I just, after 15 years of herping and photographing in the state, ended up having a lot of the species that she needed. And she, because her book is called California Snakes and How to Find Them, she was very much focused on that herp and habitat
Yeah.
photograph. So like a lot of the close-up photos she got from Spencer Riffle, who is an absolutely excellent macro photographer. So he had
Amazing.
great,
Amazing.
beautifully lit portraits, right?
Yeah.
And then I had the in habitat shots. Um, and so yeah, it was just it worked out that way. I am not the primary contributor in lizards. Lizards are not my thing, and I don't know if I got very many photos in amphibians.
Yeah,
I
me
know I didn't get
neither.
the cover. So
I think I know very few in the amphibian ones. I'm waiting to see. I don't
yeah.
remember, but
I don't know. I gave a lot to her, and I have a lot of really beautiful photos of salamanders, especially. And unfortunately, I got great photos of like foothill yellow-legged frog this year. A little bit too late to
yeah.
contribute, but that's okay. But yeah, I right now I'm donating a lot of my photos to a friend of mine who runs Things That Creep, which is an educational and outreach herpetological or nonprofit in the East Bay and of the Bay Area here in California. And she's doing like a Bay Area herps guide for people. And she goes to schools all over like the East Bay, like Oakland and Richmond and all these places that don't typically have very good nature outreach programs. And
Yeah.
she's like, I'm going to be donating a lot of photos to that. And yeah,
So
I
these are
mean,
photos that are going
I
to end up in schools or in like nature
or
centers.
like in brochures that she's putting together a brochure, a little booklet about snakes in their people's backyards
So
so they can
cool.
start to learn about them. I know.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I donated all my photos to Emily's book. I donate most of
Same.
my photos. I think
Yeah.
I've basically only sold one photo, but I am a California licensed small business
Hmm.
with my photography through Stone Pine Studios, and so I actually get to sell her book of my shows.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
I would rather sell a copy of her books than my own photographs. Like I just think that there's so much more there. It thrills
They're
me to
so
sell
great. They're
copies of the
such great
books.
books. I mean, really, I know Emily too, not nearly as well as you do, but she's one of my favorite people. And knowing her before the books came out, I knew they were going to be great, of course. And,
Yeah.
I was part of the editing and proofreading process too, so I kind of had an idea. But then holding it in your hand for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
not only the quality, which is great, it's amazing for
It's
such a small
amazing.
guide,
Yeah.
completely blew me away, like way not what I expected. But just
Yeah.
you read through it and the way she breaks it down to a level that has so much for people like us who are into herping and so much for someone who's never heard of herping in their life. They just,
Yeah.
there's so much great accessibility to that,
Yeah.
to her guides. And when we kind of related to that, when you and I were first talking about you coming on the show, I was sharing with you my guest list and we were kind of excited about the people coming on. And then you rightfully noted that it's not a list that's exactly brimming with diversity, I'll say. Which, given the historic makeup of the herping world, it's not surprising to me that that's the
Hmm.
way. But it's also not reflective of where the community is. Um, I don't want to gloss over it in general and kind of just have that be the way where we just kind of I just kind of host a space now, which also is that there's some amazing people on my list who are coming in. I'm so excited to talk to them. Um, but I'd love to hear your perspective on where we were, where we are, and
Hmm.
where you see it going.
I feel pretty ill-equipped to speak to this extensively, but I will say,
This is,
yeah,
it's a herping and food
yeah,
podcast. We're not going to get anything
yeah.
groundbreaking, but
But I will say that it comes back down to the quote, right? It comes
yeah,
back down to that quote of like, we were only understand what we're taught. And the perspectives are so important and having different
yes,
perspectives and having all perspectives. And also, if nature is perceived as something that happens to other people, and other groups,
yeah,
then it won't be conserved because it is going to take all of us to protect it. And so bringing herping and nature and accessibility to everybody is really, really important, and showing representation that is present in the community but often gets drowned out
Yeah.
is really, really important so that we can continue to bring everybody's awareness. Because as you know, like this happens to me all the time where my friends will go, "Oh, I don't like snakes, but here's a snake I found that I only like saw and engaged with because you showed me it." Right.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
then that's my community.
Friends,
And
family.
so,
Yeah.
right. And so it's like even that, like, that's one more person, right? That's one more person coming into the
Yeah.
fold. I had a friend go to Costa Rica and she was like, I was going to be tunnel vision against all those eyelash vipers. And a
Yeah.
guide, came over and showed me an eyelash viper. I'm like, oh,
That's
what
cool.
would
My little
Marissa
brother
do?
just texted me pictures of
Yeah.
Tom pit vipers from Costa Rica.
Yeah.
That's what. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
It's like, what would Marissa do?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna get like this close and reach out and take
That's
this
awesome.
picture, and I'm so
Yeah.
proud of her for it, right? Like that's one
Right.
more person, and so bringing, diverse voices so that they can touch their communities as well
Yes.
is so important. It's so important because we will only conserve what we love, and we will only love what we understand,
Right.
and we only understand what we're
But
taught.
yeah.
So if our communities can bring in that knowledge, that understanding, that acceptance into all communities, I think that's really, really important. I also want to point out like diversity isn't always like racial groups or like women or anything. I think it's also that like, for example, I never went to grad school. So my perception of being a herpetologist, even though I do work in conservation as an environmental consultant and I do work with these endangered species, you don't have to be an academic to be a herpetologist. You don't have to be, you can still have a meaningful impact on this world as a herper. You can have a meaningful impact on this world as a photographer. You can have a meaningful impact on this world as an academic. So there is space in all of those places for everyone. And that's, yeah, California snakes and how to find them.
That's such a great point. What role do you think projects like, well, like this one, like podcasts or field guides, outreach platforms, social media can play in creating that space where there is room for those voices and they're welcomed and cherished?
Hmm, that's a really good question. I honestly, if I'm gonna be honest. I
Yes,
don't listen to
please.
herping podcasts. I don't
Me
really
neither.
engage with the yeah.
I
I
listen to
don't really
Mike's and that's
engage.
it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really engage with a lot of media of herping anymore. I think my shows just have exhausted me. I did two this weekend. I
Hmm.
did a small show on a Saturday, and then I did the big Solano stroll, which was 200,000 people coming through
Oh my
on
God.
Sunday. It was crazy, and
Insane.
just talking to lots and lots of people.
Yeah.
And you know, uh, I don't often engage with a lot of the different media. And when you post photos, you almost like on, for example, Herping the Globe on Facebook or on Flickr or whatever, you almost go anonymous on it because your name is so small
Right.
and there's not a picture of you there or anything. So, um, I can't even tell you if the posts on there are diverse or not.
Right.
For better or for worse.
Yeah.
Like there's a series of anonymity there. I yeah, I don't know. I think that it is good. I mean, you talked about in your intro, I listened to it this morning, your episode one of your
Hmm.
revamp. And you were talking about how there's just so much media these days. And I remember I got into herping with by a very good friend of mine. He's still a dear friend, Alex Crone.
Oh.
He introduced me to herping when we were in college. He was just, I knew I wanted to do something in biology, but I didn't really have a focus.
Hmm.
And he loved reptiles and amphibians. And so he taught me to love reptiles and amphibians.
That's awesome.
He went on to get his PhD at Berkeley. And I went into the private sector. But I got into photography because my other friend, Nat Herrera, like introduced me to Field Herp Forum a million years
Oh my
ago.
God.
And when I was in college, right? And I would go through those posts and like see the big write-ups and
Yeah.
everything. And that I miss that kind of long form trip updates, right? When you
Yes.
talk about the weather every day and like what the moon cycles were doing when you found this and what your great day of road
I
cruising
know.
was or whatever. And I, you know,
Yeah.
it was incredible. I miss Field Herp Forum so much,
So
and
much.
there's just no way to get it back. But that's how I'm in photography is through Field Herp Forum.
Yeah.
And I think forums like that were a great way for people to ask questions, like stupid questions. My first posts were real dumb, you know? It's like, what
I
is this
I went
frog?
back
And
in
it's a
embarrassment. So
bullfrog.
I asked,
Oh, I
that's
know.
worse. I asked for side blotch lizard IDs,
Oh,
and
I
this is
think
like a year
bullfrog's pretty
into it.
bad.
Well, frog's a frog and what? No, this was like close up, like macro shots, and one had passed and it was bluish, and so I thought, oh, bluish tinge, that's got to be something new. Anyway, no, the
Yeah.
forum is great, and I think social media. I mean, Facebook totally killed it. I mean, there was a
It
couple things
did.
that
It
killed
really
it
did.
in how it
Yeah.
transformed, but Facebook is really what killed it. And it's really
Yeah.
this double-edged sword that social media, like you said, I mentioned earlier or in the other episode, I really see it as a double-edged sword. I wouldn't be able
Mm-hmm.
to be in the community at all, or be where I am without social media. I got back. I was a herper as a
Mm-hmm.
child. Well, I didn't know it was herper. I just ran around looking for snakes,
Yeah.
and watching Steve Irwin and Jeff Corwin and all those guys, and I just wanted to do what they did. And then I moved to the States and was a psych major for a while, went to culinary school, was a chef for a while, and the pandemic hit. And restaurants closed down, everything closed down. I was settling at home, and my wife at the time and we would just had time to go hiking, which we always loved. We always loved nature. I never stopped loving it, but
Yeah.
we just never had time to go. You forget. And we found a gopher snake or a rattlesnake, and we're like, "That's the best day ever." We found two snakes. And I slowly got back into it. And because Instagram and Facebook had all of these, well, Instagram had all the herping accounts, not nearly as much as they do
Mm-hmm.
now. I mean, that really blew up after the
Mm-hmm.
pandemic. But even
Yeah.
then, and Facebook had all of the herp groups. I was really quickly able to not just get back into the feel of it and the love of it, but get connected to everyone. The fact that we're sitting here is
Mm-hmm.
because I opened up a Facebook group and the California Herping group and joined it when it had 400 members, and now it's I think like 4,000 members. Um,
Is that why we're friends? I thought we were friends through Emily through her Mojave trips.
well, I wouldn't have known Emily. Like the whole, I'm saying it's like a
Yeah,
butterfly
yeah.
effect.
It snowballs, yeah.
Yeah, it really snowballs. How do you see social media? Someone who, like you said,
Ugh.
field forum. I know, love and hate. Let me
Yeah.
ask then, what do you see the benefits of it first?
Mm.
If you had to say something good about it, what you loved about it?
I honestly, and this sounds bad, it's the dopamine hit,
Yeah,
right? And to
100%.
be honest, and to be
If we're
completely, you were a
honest,
psych major.
all of it
If we're
is
honest,
yes.
it's the dopamine hit, right?
Yeah.
So I obsessively check my Facebook. I obsessively check my Instagram. I'm looking at all the comments and everything, and it's the dopamine hit.
Yeah.
And it is. I it's a problem, right? I should shut down my Facebook. I should, shut down my Instagram. I should find meaning in myself that is not tied to likes and clicks. But as a photographer,
Yes.
I want to keep my world there. And as an artist in general, and that's been since time immemorial, right? You're looking for an audience.
Yeah.
And my audience is on Facebook and Instagram.
Right.
Don't follow me on Facebook, but Instagram is marisa.ishimatsu.photography. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
So, but shameless plug. So that's and it is important to me because that's how I do sell my photographs. As I said, I'm trying to get into it for
Right.
conservation. So that's how I got explored on Flickr on a dicamp photo, and that ended up pushing it up the Google Images
Mm.
search. So it,
Mhm.
it pinged higher on Google Images when you Googled that species.
Yeah.
And consequently, that's how California Academy of Sciences found it and bought it from me. And it was in one of
Wow.
their exhibits for a while. So, like,
Wow.
again, having that education,
Yeah.
having that outreach, and just having those clicks and those eyeballs really racks me up so that I can increase visibility onto these good photos. And I think that is really, really important, especially these days with AI. I can't stand AI and I
Yeah.
can't stand AI photography, and it really bugs me. And the models are getting so good these days, but they're also so bad. And again, it brings me back to that quote, which I'm going to get tattooed, I swear. Because if people think that AI animals are real and they are shown the real thing, how the heck are they going to want to actually preserve those species and conserve those species?
Right.
So my intention is just to flood the airways with actual beautiful photos of these species that people want to share and want to get out and want to protect. We all want to protect the giant panda. We all want to protect the elephants. My God, at my shows, I get so many people coming up and just being like, well, I commune with elephants. And I'm like, yo, elephants scare the hell out of me. Like,
Yeah.
really scare me. I mean, yeah, they kill people a lot more than snakes do. Well, maybe not more, but they're so scary. Um, and like all this charismatic megafauna. And I think charismatic megafauna is great.
Yeah.
And like, if you look at, for example, the national parks in India that are conserving tigers, they're also conserving all the things that share the
Right.
habitat with tigers, right?
Right.
So it's great. But
They have enough PR.
they have enough PR.
Yeah.
So let's like sharing photographs of snakes widely on social media is great. Now, the trick is to break out of the herper mold. We have to get them into the photography groups, right?
Yeah.
We need to get them into more fine art groups. We need to get them into more places. That's why, as I said, I vend at farmers markets and at street fairs because
Hmm.
you don't expect to see me. I don't want to go to Earth Day festivals. I want to go to your run of the mill Sunday farmers market because you don't expect to see me.
Yeah.
And that's where I can make the most impact on conservation and education.
In that kind of situation, you're also getting underneath the defenses really quick because they're not expecting it. They're not coming in going,
Right.
okay, well, it's snakes. I don't know if I'm going to like this or not. They're having a good day. Oh, beautiful photograph. And you're in.
Hmm. Yeah, I usually draw people in, so I don't let them walk past.
Hmm.
If they see them glance, my hook is all the photographs are mine, taken of wild animals all over the world in their habitats. No zoos, no botanic gardens. Everything is wild and native in its habitat. And I'll see what they're looking at and I'll engage with them on that photo. Oh my gosh, yeah, that one's really beautiful. That was found here, here, and here. This is its habitat. This is its prey. Oh yeah, that one is here, here, and here. And whether they absorb it or not, they walk away with one little fun fact that I just force in their ear.
Yeah.
And as I said, I have a full-time job. I'm not doing this to make money. This is
Right.
my version of community service. This is my version of science communication.
Yeah. Going back to AI for a second, because it's a topic that I really am interested in, and so I could monologue about it for hours. I won't, but AI is here. It's not going anywhere. We're not going to
Yeah.
be able to get rid of it. And within the next few years, it's going to change the world as we know it. And people call me
Mm-hmm.
dramatic when I say that, but it isn't.
Mm-mm.
In the next,
No, I live in San Francisco and I just drove through every single billboard
yeah,
is AI, AI, AI,
yeah,
AI,
yeah,
AI. It's
absolutely.
crazy.
In 3 to 5 years, it's going to change the world in some ways. In 10 years, it will change. We don't know how. I mean, there's not
Yeah,
any way for us to think how it's going to change the world.
right.
I think there are ways in which AI as itself is a great tool right now. I think there are some ways in which it's used in some applications that really show the potential of what could be when it changes the world forever. That
Hmm.
the best case scenario. But the way that they do art, and like you're saying, they're getting better and better and better. And the speed at which they're getting better, right? This exponential
Hmm.
thing where last year, so I'm an admin in many Facebook identification groups. And last year we had our first, someone posted an AI snake for identification. It was pretty obvious. We called it AI. They argued with us. We shut it down. It was AI.
Hmm.
And I said that day to them, and maybe I'll have some of them on the podcast at one point. We'll talk about this specifically for more. But I said, within a year, this is going
Yeah.
to be a problem for us. And within a year
Yes.
after that, it's going to end snake ID groups. I don't think we're going to have them
Yeah.
anymore. And sure
Yeah.
enough, a year later, there was a debate right now on one of the groups between, I won't name them, but two very respected herpetologists. Very
Mm.
respected. One's a professor. I think the other one might be a professor too. I don't know. But about a snake that was 100% AI created. But only because we know snake species. There wasn't a scale
Right.
out of place. There wasn't any
Oof.
weirdness. It was just, we know there's no bright yellow snakes with long, big, like tentacle horns. Like we know that. But someone who doesn't, you could not convince them. They were arguing back and forth.
Yeah.
One was saying it's real. One was saying it's AI. And these are herpetologists.
Yeah. Thanks. I hate
Almost,
it.
I know. It's almost exactly a year to the day to when I said that. And I think within a year, there's
Oh,
just not going to be no point. It's going to be
yeah.
it's going to be a Western rat snake with the scaling. Like they're going to get to the scale, it'll be the scalature of a king snake. So you count scales and it doesn't. So anyway,
And
it's
that's
so
and
scary.
actually it's not only that, but it's also in print, right? There are these
Yes.
print books that are AI generated print books that have completely wrong IDs. And so it's in print and you usually trust books. And there are such terrible, terrible books coming out now that show like IDs of both birds and snakes and whatever else that are just AI generated and absolute bullcrap. Um, my husband works in like tech, but in the film industry, and
Hmm.
he called me the other night and he was like, AI is so scary to me, and I am just freaking out right now, and for many different reasons. And I was like, you need to go touch grass. And I don't mean that as in like get out of here and go outside because you're disillusioned. I mean, go outside, go up into the forest and go touch some grass because that is the only thing that's going to be left after the apocalypse
Yes.
is somehow nature will prevail. And it's really important to remember that something will be left of our society once the AI takes over and whatever else happens, nature will prevail and it is the universal truth in our world. And we're going to try to hold on to what we've got, but even if we can't, something will live. And it's really important to like that grounds me and that keeps me doing what I'm doing. It keeps me as a biologist, like knowing that I am in this world that is a universal truth that will survive me.
Yes.
It will survive all of humans' bullcrap. It will survive. And if we all just go outside and touch grass a little bit,
While we
and I
still
mean
have it.
actual like native species of grass, I don't mean a
Yeah.
lawn,
Right.
it really helps. It
Yeah.
really helps.
Getting out there.
Mental health thing.
Um, yeah. I wanted to share with you real quick. Someone sent me this. He is
Oh, geez.
a fellow herp admin in one of the groups. His name's Will.
Uh-huh.
He's actually the only other Californian admin in all those groups. He sent me a close-up picture and then a full-out picture of a book. So I'm going to show the zoomed-out picture. But he asked me to
Okay.
ID the rattlesnake, and I was like, some illustration of a rattlesnake. I don't know what it is. And so he zoomed. Well, actually, let me. Yeah, no, I'll just show you the whole thing. So
Yeah.
this
I'll
is. I don't
describe
know
what
if
I'm
you can see
seeing.
it.
A
I don't know if it's
Western
coming.
diamondback
Right,
rattlesnake.
but look at the snake. It's nothing.
What
It's not
is
it's
that?
an AI generated rattlesnake.
Oh my God, I hate
And so
it.
it has some timber, it has
I
some
see some Norpac
Pacific,
in that
right? It
face.
has, yeah.
Yeah. I see
There's
the
no
timber
Atrox in
and the
this at
scales.
all.
There's no Aatrox. No,
Yeah.
definitely not.
Um,
Oh my
I
gosh, I
know.
hate that.
And
Have
so
you seen
that's
like the birding clocks, like those old birding clocks from the 90s that
mhm.
like, the Audubon Society would, sell and it would be like, this is the call for this and this is the call for that and everything. They now sell them and all the IDs on every single one is incorrect. And
Wow.
they're all AI generated. And it's like, again, if people think that that's nature, how the heck are they going to want to conserve what's actually there?
Yeah.
Because what is there is not curated and pretty. It's dirty and messy and hard to find and
Yeah.
it's imperfect and there is no perfection and it's just grimy. So let's protect that. But nobody wants to because everybody wants the curated Instagram.
Yeah.
She says as a photographer who curates all of her
Instagram.
photos.
Yeah. I mean, I do too.
Yeah.
No, Instagram is a trip. I won't. We're not even get
Yep.
into
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Um, okay, so totally different. Let's change tracks
Yeah. Yeah.
altogether.
Yep. Yep. Sure. Yeah.
Um, I think we're both. It's fair to say we're both people who really love food. Who food is like a big
Oh
part of our
God. Yeah.
life. And when I was in culinary school, my instructor said it this way, and it's very simplistic, but I kind of like it. Is there's people who I mean, not just everyone says this, but there's people who live to eat or eat to live, right? And I'm very much
Hmm.
the second kind of person. I mean, no, first kind, live to eat.
You live to eat.
Um, I've been lucky enough to kind of travel around the world, especially as a youngster, and get to try food multiple continents by the time I was 6, 7. You've got to travel a lot too, to some really cool places. Okay, I'll go with an easy one first. What's some of the best meals you've had in other
Mm.
places?
Oh my
I don't know if
gosh.
it's the easy one, but
I don't know if it's easy, but I love street food and just trying to kind of rolling the dice a little bit sometimes. But
mhm.
when I was in Uganda, for example, you'll see signs everywhere for Rolex. And like it's not the watches, but it's spelled Rolex, 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 Rolex. And Rolex is basically like a thin crepe with like egg and like maybe some tomatoes and like a little thin omelet with tomatoes and bell peppers and something like that.
Mhm.
And it's rolled up, and you just like serve it rolled up like in a plastic bag. Love it. Absolutely love Rolex. It's amazing. And when you're out herping, it's the greatest breakfast and the greatest lunch ever. Oh, one of the other things I had in Uganda, like if you stop in some of these small villages, like people will just run out with skewers of meat, just barbecued meat. Some of the best barbecue I've ever had in my entire life was just a skewer of goat bought for like
Wow.
50 cents off
Yeah.
somebody on the street in Uganda. Absolutely incredible. Um, I love just trying. If I don't know what it is, I usually order it. Like that's
Yes.
kind of my go-to,
That's
right?
such a great
As
way
long
to
as
do
I
it.
don't have an yeah, as long as I don't have an allergy to it, because unfortunately I'm half Japanese and allergic to fish,
Hmm.
so I have to be really careful with that. But besides that, like Namibia, eating like not kudu, impala, delicious. Oryx, amazing.
Really?
Eating. Oh yeah, Oryx is great. Springbok, amazing, right? So just eating everything, it's I love when I was in Indonesia, I ate mie goreng for everything, which is basically just like stir-fried noodles,
Yeah,
which I will never say no to a noodle. Um,
same.
yeah, so those are kind of the best meals I have. I mean, even everything tastes good when you're really tired from the field too. So when
Yes.
you're in the Amazon, right, with Mike and Mike Pingleton down on his MT Amazonas tours, right? The cooks that they have on those tours are top notch, especially because you're tired and hot and everything tastes good, right? And
Hmm.
fresh juice. Oh, give me, give me, give me. Oh, fresh juice from like tree ripened fruit is just so good. Or
Yeah.
like, in India where you just pull over to the side of the road and you get a coconut and they just whack it and stick a hole in it and hand it to you. Like, ugh, so good.
Yeah.
So good. Like that's my favorite. That's absolutely my favorite.
Yeah, it definitely when I travel, the simple things. I'm never going to fancy. I go to somewhere and what's the best restaurant in
Right.
the city? I mean, traveling in Europe, that's one thing, but
Yeah.
traveling in places that are more interesting, I think.
Mm-hmm.
No shade to Europe, but there's interesting parts of it. But um, in traveling to these places, right? Uganda, Indonesia, India, elsewhere, what do you see, or what have you seen initially as a first thing? If there's any commonality in cultural differences in how people see snakes or interact with snakes compared to how we do in the West, I'll say.
Yeah. I am very lucky and I usually travel to places where I have connections. And by that I mean I'm usually going on a herping specific tour. So there's a bunch of different herp groups I go with. Bali Reptile Rescue was great in Indonesia. I'm just going to plug them real quick. The Naturalist Collection in Namibia is incredible for all of like Southern Africa. Um, the herping tours in Uganda is great. Like they've been great. I really try to go with ethical people who don't collect animals, who don't like harm the animals, they don't pin the snakes. They just are really they're out there to serve their clientele who are mainly photographers, right?
Yeah.
So they're mainly people who just want to see the animals. And for me, there is what the reason why I like to go with those people as opposed to try to go alone is A, search image, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to see anything in Uganda if I didn't have local guides. Like local
Sure.
guides are the reason why we found everything in Uganda. I mean, the guide saw the gaboon viper that was 100% hidden under leaves because he flipped one leaf and
Your
saw
photos
three
of
inches
that,
of
I
a body
mean,
pattern. I know, it was crazy. It was crazy. Like, I would have never found that
yeah.
gaboon myself, ever, not in a
If
million
it was a
years.
snake, I would have stepped on it.
Right. No, exactly.
Yeah.
And like, Alfar walked up and he was like, it's right here. And he showed me literally like a 10-foot, 10 by 10 spot. And he's like, find it. And I sat there for 5 minutes and I couldn't find it. And he like kept narrowing the box and I still couldn't see it. He literally had to poke at it to show it
That's
to me because I
crazy.
could not see it. Um, so I think that, the good thing about going with those groups and going with people who live there is you are boosting the economy of finding snakes. And so, for example, you're directly making people in those areas care about their snakes, right? In a way that they wouldn't have done before. So in Uganda, for example, Alfar, every single village you go to, every single spot that you go herping, he hires local guides and
Nice.
local people in the villages and to lead you around, and he's trained them all on how to find snakes. He shows them to you in situ. He like his the guys are not allowed to carry bags, they're not allowed to carry backpacks. Like they know that this is like no poaching, no nothing.
Hmm.
They don't stage any snakes. They are there to find the snakes, and then they all are connected by cell phone because Uganda has 5G throughout the entire country. It's crazy. But
I don't
they
even
will
have
just
that
call each
here.
other. Exactly. So they'll call each other and they'll just be like, "Hey, I've got this here," and we'll all go troop and see it in situ.
That's so
So
cool.
I saw the rhinoceros viper in situ. I burst into tears. Just I was so excited. Saw the gaboon viper in situ. Saw the Athrocyspida in situ,
Yeah.
and it was just magical. But being able to have a benefit to the local economy.
Yeah.
And also, I do have the incredible fortune to be able to afford this. And your dollar goes farther internationally. And I don't mean that like, oh, we can live better. No,
No,
I mean
no.
like when you go out with those people and you give them a $20 tip for a day of work,
Right.
the average household income in Uganda for a month is 100 US dollars. a month. So that $20 tip is going really friggin' far.
Yeah.
So that really, really helps, you know? And so being able to do some good through your travel and help to promote species and ecosystems and having people like in Costa Rica, right?
Hmm.
The ecotourism is their main form
Right.
of money. So if there's more money in ecotourism than there is in poaching, for example, it's going to be much better for those ecosystems.
Yeah. Um, that's a really great point you bring up on the guides and the local economy. You're directly incentivizing them to like snakes, to love snakes, to want to have
Correct.
snakes around.
Right. To
And
learn about them and
right,
to just, yeah, and to
what's
spread
what,
that knowledge.
what's
Right.
even so much as what's dangerous and what's not. I know in India that's
Right.
such a big thing.
Exactly.
There's so many venomous snakes in India, but really only four that
Hmm.
cause fatalities every year, right? The big four, the cobra, the
Russell's
krait,
viper.
right, Russell's, and
Yeah.
the saw-scaled.
Saw scaled.
When we went to India a couple of years ago with Mike and some others, we got to see we got to see all four, but a few of them were rescues that
Hmm.
we were releasing. You know, we were staying at a wildlife sanctuary, and that their main snake person gets called into the villages that are inside the wildlife sanctuary for human snake conflict, and so we got to release some that he had picked up that day, and so we got to see all big four, but that's a big thing when we work with people there when I on that trip. Another thing is educating them just on what's venomous or not. Even when they're doing the
Right.
guys, they have to know that. So that's it's a really great point. I went a little tangent there, but
No, it's all good.
um,
Well, talking about the Western Ghats,
yeah.
right? So Ajay over at a Gumbe Rainforest
Hmm.
Research Station, right? He and Zai Whitaker have just done a great job of. I got to go out with them and do photograph some of their king cobra rescues,
That's so
and
cool.
it was they could go into a village, they could rile the cobras up, they could make it sensationalism and
Right,
really like show, oh, I'm a badass snake wrangler. I'm gonna just
right,
this cobra is hooding up at me, and I'm such a badass. They don't do that. They explicitly do not do that. They very calmly, very collectively, like they bag the snake in a way that the snake, I never saw a king cobra hood up there ever. Like because they were so calm about it and they were so good about manipulating these snakes into bags safely and that the snakes never felt aggressive or defensive rather. They never felt that need to just, to hood up. So after they've bagged the snake safely, they sit around, they take tons and tons of data, and then they hand out brochures and they gather all the villagers around and they give them all a talk about how cool king cobras are
wow,
and how interesting they are. Because I guess in the local religion, monocle cobras are an incarnation of Krishna. Is that correct? Like, yeah. So they're an incarnation of Krishna, and so they protect the monocle cobras. And they protect all the true cobras,
hmm,
but they will kill king cobras because they're not they
right.
don't associate them with being a
I think
true
it's Shiva. I
cobra.
want to get that
Shiva.
because I
That's
have my
yeah,
Indian background, and so I want to
yeah.
make
I was
sure
gonna say
it's
is I
Shiva.
think
Yeah,
yeah. You're
Shiva.
right. You're right.
He's
It totally
portrayed
is
with the
Shiva.
cobra
Yes,
in
you're
his roots.
totally
Yeah.
right. Yeah. But so he would when he first started, when Ajay first started and when ARS first started,
Mm-hmm.
there were a lot of deaths, both of the people because they got into trouble when they were dealing with these snakes because they were trying to kill the snakes, getting too close and
Yeah.
getting bit, and obviously death of the snakes as well. Since he started, and he's like slowly his sphere of influence has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger in this radius around ARS. There have been really few King Cobra human conflicts.
That's so
Even though
cool.
people still find them in their house, they just call him up and they know
Yeah.
that they can call him day or night because he's done such a great job educating people and bringing one more person, one more village, one more place. And everybody gathers round. It's just this awesome, like, uh, not like it's an event to have a king cobra. And now people are excited. They're like, oh
Right.
my gosh, look at this animal. And it's over here and look at this behavior. So we've changed that from like a fear into like a respect, which is
That's so
really
cool.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I totally lost my train of thought. I was so interested in the king cobras that I completely forgot where I was gonna go. Um, oh, back to food. That
Always.
was herpers eat not great in the field usually.
No,
Um,
definitely not.
we're not. I mean, if I'm out there herping for a while, I'll be cooking so often. But usually, if I'm just herping is not a culinary experience usually.
Yeah.
What are some herping snacks you always have with you?
Ooh. Yeah, I usually just have a Cliff Bar. Typically, I always
Yeah.
keep a Cliff Bar in my bag just in case, a stick of beef jerky or whatever in my bag at all times. If I'm in New Mexico, my favorite snack is like green chili carne seca. I
Mm.
cannot find it anywhere else, but it's super flat, super dry beef jerky.
Hmm.
And it's basically cracks like a cracker and it's
Really?
super like it's almost powdery. Yeah, I love it. And it's a truly New Mexican thing. Like I can find it very few places. There's one other place I know where to get it, which is a local rancher here in California who
Hmm.
makes
He
it.
makes his
But
own.
that's it. He makes his own. And like that's all I can find. But that's one of my favorite things. As for meals, I am a very much like a Subway sandwich you picked up 8 hours ago type of person. If
Yeah.
I'm doing like true field work, I
Hmm.
am a bougie ramen person. So I like get a bunch of stuff and put it in my ramen.
Hmm.
And that's kind of what I eat. But yeah, in terms of snacks on the go, obviously, like I really don't like road cruising, but when I
Yeah.
have to do it, I you gotta have some sort of energy drink. My energy drink of choice right now is Celsius. I love a
Really?
Celsius.
Yeah, so many people
Yeah,
are. I
they're
can't
great.
I can't do it. There's a
Really? Oh,
flavor.
they're
I don't
the
know. I don't know.
there's so many different
Over time I
flavors.
had so many and I'm just back to Red Bulls now, which
Yeah.
is so basic and
Really?
so I know, I'm
Yeah.
so disappointed in myself, but
I don't like the carbonation as much. So like I'm
mm,
a
got you.
monster, the tea ones,
Yeah.
the monsters that just like those were my go-to for many years.
Hmm.
And now it's the Celsius, the flat Celsiuses. They're great. And also weird little snack thing that people think I'm very odd for, which
Hmm.
is I absolutely love melted M&Ms. So especially if
Like
I'm
all
in
the
the
way
desert,
melted or where they're
like
still
all the way
like
melted.
soup
So
in the
like
bag?
yes.
Okay.
No, it's not in the bag. So
Right,
so
in
you
each
throw
individual one, right? Yes.
exactly.
Yes,
So I'll
100%.
throw yeah, see, so I'll just throw a bag of M&Ms on the dash of my car when I'm in the desert and
Yes.
like just eat them one by one by cracking them open and then having the melted
Almost like a
chocolate. It's
popping like
great.
chocolate popping boba.
Yes. It's so
100%
good.
with you.
Okay. I'm
100%.
glad.
Yes. No, I
Because
love
when they
that.
get too cold, they get too chalky.
Have
Like
you ever done
that's
that with the
yeah.
mini M&Ms? Like a tube and have
Mm-hmm.
that? Yeah, and they're like,
Oh yeah.
oh, so
Yep.
great. So
Yeah.
great.
That or Spitz cracked pepper is like the
Hmm.
sunflower seeds is like the only
Yeah.
way that I can get along on road trips.
Okay. You mentioned something
Yeah.
interesting. You said, you hate road cruising, but you
Yeah,
do
I
it.
do.
What do you hate about it? Tell me about
I'm
road
an
cruising and you.
Yeah, I'm an anxious person and I don't like stopping on the side of the road.
Okay.
It's very visible and
Hmm.
it's very dangerous. It's also like especially if you're on a winding road or, with little visibility, especially if you're on something like a highway where people are
Yeah.
passing really quickly. And being a woman, I also just don't like stopping and being exposed like that.
Yeah.
And then being a photographer, I can't really get good photos, and the snake is so riled up. It's usually hot on the road. Like
Yeah.
I'd have to bag it and keep it to the next day, which is not something I like to do. And usually the habitat you're going through isn't great for photos anyway.
Right.
And I like to photograph where I find them. Like there's a million reasons. And I'm not a night person. I am just not a
Really?
night person. Yeah,
I
I
don't know
I
many
will
morning
I
herpers.
know, I know. I love a morning, like I love a basking rattlesnake in the first rays of
Yeah,
dawn. Like
I get
that's
that.
my favorite there. But I don't like road cruising. I don't like thinking about light. I'm a natural light photographer, so thinking
Mm.
about light is tough. Night hiking
Yeah,
is
I
not
get
my
it's
favorite
tough.
either. Yeah, but I would rather see the animal than all
Sure.
those things. So
Sure.
I will go
Some
night
things we
hiking
really
every
only
night.
can, yeah, some things we really only can see at night or even by road cruising. No,
Exactly.
that's interesting because everyone has such a different opinion on road
Yeah.
cruising. Some people are like, I'm a road cruising herper, that's all I want to do. And yeah, no, it's always interesting hearing someone else's
Yeah.
take on that. Um,
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I want to throw a few closing questions your way. They're questions that I would say these are questions I ask every guest, but you're the first guest. But from here on out, I want to ask every guest.
I will set the stage.
Um, and one day I'll say, and I love seeing how answers change from person to person. But
Hmm.
all right. First one is it's a small closing question, but also it's not. It's small. What's something that gives you hope for the future of herping or science or what we do right now?
When I'm at my shows and a kid picks up my book, the one of the California Snakes book, and
Yeah,
just sits there and paws through it, and their parent looks at me, looks at the book, and buys it for them. That
that's
gives me
so
hope.
great.
Even when the parent is like, I'm scared of snakes. And parents have told me, like, I am scared of snakes and I don't want my kids to be. and I want to
That's
pass
such a
on, like,
that's
it's
so
so
good.
good. It's so good. Yeah. And another thing is like sometimes I'll have kids come up. I had one kid one time. This little boy came up to me. He just looks me straight in the eye. He goes, "You got any photo of rattlesnakes?" I'm like, "Oh, honey, stick with
Oh
me."
yeah.
So I gave him my stack of photos of rattlesnakes, and he picked the New Mexican ridge-nosed rattlesnake, Crotalus willeti
Wow.
obscurus. And I was like, ding, 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 little kid, you just won the lottery. And I gave it to him, like
That's so
straight up. I
cool.
was like, you did it. Like, I'm so proud of you. Here you go. This is your prize. You picked the coolest one in the bunch. You know, he
Yeah.
didn't even know what it was.
Hmm.
And so that is going to stick with him. And so that gives me hope, right? That
Totally.
gives me hope.
Totally. 100%. What's something that, in your opinion, we as a community need to stop doing? This can be serious, this can be
Mm.
small, just what's something that needs to be gone?
Free handling.
Yep.
I think free handling, it just sets the stage. It encourages unsafe behavior. It is toxic masculinity incarnate, and it's bad for the animal. It's bad for the person. It's, yes, maybe that animal is super chill, but
Right.
you are teaching kids to engage in a dangerous behavior that if they get bit, the snake is going to get blamed, not the
Right.
kid. And so I think that it just, teaching responsible handling techniques and not glorifying these machismo people who want to free handle everything, I think is really important. And
Yeah.
of course, I handled the Gaboon Viper, but I
No,
did
I
it
think,
responsibly by tailing. I
yeah,
had control of it the entire time, and if I felt like I was unsafe, I would have walked away. But I think free handling, we need to stop.
absolutely. I think there's also a good distinction you made there about it being the teaching of others, the showing to others, because
Right.
I've always said when I've talked about free handling, because I've gotten to it publicly with some free handlers over the years, because I don't bite my tongue on social media,
Which I
that,
really admire you for. I don't
thank
have
you.
that kind of fortitude. I wish I did.
Thank you. It's fun, you know. And so I feel like the trolls feel like they're anonymous behind the keyboard and can say anything. So why don't I take advantage of that too? I can say anything I want, you know. They don't know who I am.
Yeah.
I guess they do now. Um, but a distinction I've not a distinction, but something I've always said is people want to do something like that in their own time when they're
Hmm.
out hiking. Do it. Do I agree
Go
with
for
it?
it.
No, but do it. Do it. And if
Yeah.
you get tagged, it's on you, you know. And like you said,
Yeah.
a venomous snake is not more likely to bite you than a non-venomous snake, right? We handle non-venomous snakes and don't get bitten all the time. Could I go out and
Right.
handle rattlesnakes without getting bitten? Probably. I probably wouldn't get
Yeah.
bit. But for me, the risk isn't worth it. But if you want to do that, fine. But you're putting that on camera, you're putting that online, and it comes back to that social media thing we
Right.
said, where
Right.
everyone's eyes are on it. And often with the sensationalistic ones, those are the ones that go viral, and they go in front of eyes
Right.
that don't know, you know. If just the
Right.
community is seeing it, fine. The community can self-police. You know, we all know that Dan Wells is... Anyway. Um, but...
I'm so glad I
Um,
don't know who that is.
um, but yeah, we have this responsibility that eyes on me. So that's a great answer. Um, okay, what's your herping hot take? What's an opinion that gets you side eye from other herpers?
Well, we talked about ethics in photography,
Yeah,
right? I am not an only in situ photographer. I do pose my
yeah,
animals and I do
absolutely.
cause them stress. And so that's my little hot take. And it is, like we said, I've run the pros and cons and I've chosen to engage in that behavior and it is what it
Yeah,
is.
okay, fair. Like we
Yeah.
talked about, me too. All right,
Yeah.
and finally, what is either or both the best or worst meal that you've had
Oof.
out herping, whether it's after a night in the field or on a herp trip internationally, whatever, just best and worst. Either one, either or.
I think the best has to be it was like Tim Warfel and that whole crew
Mm-hmm.
way up in the mountains, the Del Nidos in Mexico. And we had hired these two Mexican Mormon guides to lead us up there and to help take care of us up there, provide transportation, provide us meals. We got up there and they are cooking on basically like the rim of a wheel rim
Mm-hmm.
and then a flame, like they had a propane flame underneath it and then a big wok and they cooked everything in this wok. But one night they found this gigantic log and they threw it on the fire that night. And the next morning, there were still coals in the fire. Every morning we woke up to the sound of thick-billed parrots going through the
Mm.
conifers up there.
Wow.
And there were rattlesnakes. Like we found so many twin spots up there and we got our Del Nido ridge-nosed rattlesnake. It was amazing. But so the coals were so hot from that big log they put on. So they made biscuits in a Dutch oven and threw it in the fire, and it was
That's so
cooked in the
cool.
coals. And then they
I
made
love cooking in
gravy.
coals.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
made gravy in this big wok. And the
Wow.
biscuits and gravy, I don't particularly like biscuits and gravy. I
Same.
will never have biscuits and gravy again because that memory was just so good. It was so
Wow.
good. Yeah, that was absolutely amazing.
Great.
Yeah.
Marissa, thank you so much for sharing your stories, your work, your perspectives, which I love, and we see eye to eye on so much of it. It's always so much fun talking to you. You gave a little bit of a plug earlier, but here's your chance to do it again. Your Instagram, if there's anything else that you'd like people to put their eyes on. Yeah.
Yeah. I would want to say one more thing, which I have
Yes,
two of my
please.
proudest moments, and they have to relate to both the things we've talked about. So
Yeah.
one of my proudest moments was I found a bushmaster in the Amazon and one night, and we bagged her for the next day. We took photographs during the day.
Mhm.
And the next, like after we were done photographing her, we put her back exactly where we found her. And the next night we went out and she was still sitting there exactly where she was.
Wow.
And we were talking about photographing and causing stress to the animals, and we
Yeah.
did. We caused stress to her, and she ended up right back where we
Right.
were, right where, and it that made me so happy and
It's
so
so
like
affirming to that
it's so
decision to
affirming.
yeah.
Yeah. And maybe that's not the case with all my snakes,
Right.
but it was the case with that, and that really made me
I think
happy.
it speaks to, I'll
Um,
just interject real quick. I think it speaks to that even if you are going to do that, if you're going to take a snake out of
right,
habitat, and which I try to keep as minimal as possible too. I don't remember the last
right.
time I did that. I definitely have done it, but it's rare.
Hmm.
There's still a way to do it in a way that minimizes stress to the snake. That's the most respectful
Right.
to the snake. Keep the
Right.
bag cool and dark. Don't move it around too much.
All right.
Don't pull it out. Oh, this isn't a good place. Let me try over. You know, it's simple and that's exactly kind of what
Yeah.
happened with there. You didn't stress her enough for her
Yeah.
to leave her place. That's so cool.
Exactly. That was really wonderful.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is that I did once have a photo go viral.
Oh,
Properly viral. I posted it. It was a photo of a Perengues adder in Bitis Perengia. It's so hard to pronounce.
yeah.
From Namibia, and it was buried in the sand. And all it is you can see its eyes and its nostrils and
It's
like
one of my
one
favorite
grain of
photos.
sand.
Yeah.
It's so good, right? So, and everybody's seen that photo a million times. Every herper who's gone to go look for the species has the same photo, but for some reason, mine struck a chord.
Yeah.
And it was I got contacted by the dodo first, and
Wow.
they were like, "Can I please write this up?" And I said, "Yes, but I don't want to hear any of this bullcrap of the sensationalist thing of this viper is hiding in the sand waiting to kill you,
Yeah.
and this thing is gonna it's got venom and it's gonna just blah blah blah. I don't want to hear any of that. I
Right.
want you to tell me how cool it is ecologically, evolutionarily, and how it moves and how it interacts with its environment. And if you do that and you plug Dane and the Naturalist Collection in Namibia, yes, you can use my photo." And they did.
That's so cool.
I got to read the copy before it went out, and they did a very good job on it. And then it was picked up by My Modern Met and Petapixel, and they kept that going. And they both also
They wrote their own thing
went,
but kept the same tone.
yes, they went at it from a very like educational and like calm, no sensationalism, just like
Yeah.
look at how cool this photo is, look at how cool this animal is. And both of them asked my permission. Then one day, like a year and a half ago, I started getting a bunch of like random follows from Iran. And I'm like, what the heck
Okay.
is going on? And a Tehranian journal had randomly picked up
Wow.
that photo and posted it. And I ran it through Google Translate and it still had the same tone.
That's so cool.
So I'm like, that made me really, really proud, right? Talking about communication and science journalism, like that's great.
Yeah.
So if we can keep that going and we keep that, like, look at how cool this is, as opposed to, oh my God, it's so scary, that's really, really important. So that's
Yeah.
my little closing remark. My Instagram is marisa.ishimatsu.photography, but easier to spell than that is my website, which is stonepinestudios.com.
Great.
And that's about it for me.
Great. As far as the show, you can follow it at Wood Fired Herping on Instagram. Join the Wood Fired Herping podcast group on Facebook, which is wordy. I'm going to have to cut that down. Or visit the website at woodfiredherping.com. Thanks for being here, and until next time.